As of today, I've been on YouTube for roughly over 2 years now, and my content has mainly covered the series Berserk. And I mean, hey, you guys can't fault me for this. Berserk is a true masterpiece in the world of manga and anime, standing out as a true anomaly amongst the rest. But today, I wanted to jump out of Berserk and into another series that I hold very close to my heart. That series being Baki the Grappler. So describing the world of Baki is actually pretty challenging because there are some insane things that happen within this verse. But if you can't tell from this manga panel alone, my boy Baki is absolutely ripped. He's diced 365. In fact, the vast majority of Baki characters actually have physiques that far surpass stage-ready bodybuilders, as insane as that is. Just to make myself clear, all of the characters in this verse are fucking massive. Each and every one of them packs colossal delts, huge quads, a V-taper with a small midsection, and a six-pack. The overall aesthetic and symmetry demonstrated here is insane. Some of the feats demonstrated in this series are unbelievable. Even the weirdness of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure holds nothing compared to Baki. You guys remember that time that Oliva flexed so hard that he not only ripped open his tux, but left it standing in the middle of the fucking air?
It's humongous.
I don't want to make accusations, but I bet he's using steroids.
Oh yeah, there was this other time, this guy, little guy, Yujiro, you might have heard of him, Yujiro Hanma, the strongest creature on the earth. Well, Yujiro punched the ground and managed to stop an earthquake in its tracks. This feat is ludicrous. It's something you would expect to see out of One Punch Man. And this feat, in my opinion, sets the stage for the strength and caliber of these fighters. They're not peak humans, they're monsters. So due to these feats, I think it's pretty obvious that these characters' strength, speed, and fighting skills are on an entirely different level. But despite the impressive skills of these combatants, I was still able to find a character from Hajime no Ippo that I think might be able to hold his own if he existed in the Baki Universe. This character's intense training regimen combined with his natural talent and determination make him a formidable opponent against any challenger. I would argue that this character's strength and tenacity make him a force to be reckoned with even in the Baki Universe. But without any further delay, it's time we introduce the Japanese Hawk, the Bear Slayer, the Lord of the Perverts, Mamoru Takamura. So before we jump into this crossover, we gotta talk about the main man himself. Takamura would self-describe himself like this.
I'm gonna catch that thing, so get ready to cook bear stew! I'm no wimp like those pussies.
Yeah, so Takamura is far from being a puss boy. In fact, he's essentially the pinnacle of strength, at least when it comes to a boxing perspective in the world of Hajime no Ippo. Takamura is so strong that he goes out of his way to take on multiple different world title weight classes and win them just to flex on people. And while the guy does have an ego that could easily fill up the entire boxing ring, I would honestly say it's pretty justified. After all, I mean, he's never lost a single match his entire career. The fact is, Takamura's boxing record is flawless. He was easily able to compete with and beat world champions like Brian Hawk, David Eagle, and Richard Bison. To further clarify, all of these men are world-class champions, and yet Takamura was able to best all of them in combat. And as if defeating 3 world champions wasn't enough already, there's also that little time where Takamura might have taken down a full fucking bear. It goes without saying that this scene is peak testosterone and easily one of Takamura's best feats of all time. But Takamura has more going for him than just his strength. The guy is extremely fast as well. It's even stated that Takamura is faster than featherweights like Ippo and Miyata, which is pretty crazy considering the weight class difference. One speed feat that I found to be particularly notable is when Takamura is able to evade 3 men attempting to beat him up and simultaneously grab all of the buttons off of their jackets while being undetected. So I think this feat pretty much establishes that Takamura's agility and quick reflexes allow him to dodge punches and deliver fast, precise counterattacks in return. But as far as endurance is concerned, Takamura has plenty of energy to spare. More than half of the time, the guy is training on an empty stomach, and yet he's still kicking the ass of everybody surrounding him. Takamura's endurance is so strong that back when he was fighting world champion Brian Hawk, he was able to take the fight into round 8 and still deliver one of the best ass whoopings in animated history. Also, I'd like to stress the fact that Takamura isn't just physically strong, he also has insane mental fortitude. This is shown to us firsthand in the Battle of the Hawk, where Takamura has to lose a substantial 44 pounds in order to make weight for the fight. This overall weight management, while it was intense, I think it really goes a long way to highlight Takamura's strength of mind and toughness of spirit. Last but not least, I'd like to discuss the multiple reasons why Takamura fights. So of course, Takamura is motivated by the platonic friendship power showcased in many prominent shonen anime, but ultimately I'd like to stress that Takamura fights for one reason and one reason only, and that's to prove that he is the strongest. Now, I think this quote that Takamura says to Ippo speaks volumes about his character. Takamura is referring to boxing at the world level, and he states, "That's where only the real monsters can survive. Don't cross the line if you want to stay human." Now obviously this quote is up for interpretation, but the way I see it, Takamura doesn't see boxing as just a simple sport. He views it as a lifestyle, and if it comes down to it, he's willing to die for it. And it's owed in great part to Takamura's level of determination and devotion to the sport of boxing that makes him one of the strongest in the Hajime no Ippo universe. But now that we've talked about Takamura's strengths and his overall character, I think it's time we answer the question: how far could Mamoru Takamura make it in the Baki the Grappler universe? So the first major fight that Takamura would come across in the Baki series would be against the 100 gang members that Baki fought when he was only 13. Baki actually loses this fight. He's only able to take out 40 of the gang members. So Takamura doesn't necessarily have to win this so much as he just has to survive. And Takamura is more than capable of surviving a street brawl. The guy is a grown man who fights at the world champion level, and at this point Baki was a prepubescent gym rat. So in this battle of attrition, I would say Takamura doesn't win. However, I would say he fares better than Baki and is probably capable of at least taking out half of the gang members. Additionally, Takamura has already proven that he's more than capable of taking on multiple fighters at once. He actually knocked out 20 people who were insulting his brother, and he doesn't even have a scratch on him. Also, keep in mind that Takamura was street fighting way before he even entered the world of boxing. The chief literally found him on the street just beating the shit out of people, so this wouldn't be his first rodeo. So I would say Takamura easily survives the street fight. Now, moving on to the next major fight, Baki fights boxer Yuri Tchaikovsky. And spoiler alert, the fight doesn't really go so well for Baki. He actually gets his cheeks clapped, and Yuri doesn't even have to try that hard to beat him. So it's evident that Yuri is pretty strong. He's a highly skilled boxer and a world champion. It's even shown to us in a flashback that Yuri was capable of defeating an entire pack of wolves and defending his sister simultaneously. And while this feat is impressive as hell, I would say there is a little bit of a shortfall when you compare it to the guy who literally took down a bear 4 times his own size. So analyzing these two characters is interesting because they're both multi-weight class champions in boxing. However, when we compare their physical strength feats, it's pretty evident that Takamura just blows Yuri out of the water. The fact is, I don't think we've seen enough from Yuri in the Baki series to believe that he could surpass or exceed any of Takamura's strength feats. The closer you look at Takamura's character, the more obvious it becomes that the guy has superhuman levels of strength and power. So to give you an example of what I'm talking about, one of Takamura's most impressive displays of strength is when he single-handedly lifts an entire truck back onto the main road by himself. I shouldn't have to mention just how insane this feat is, and even if we lowball it, Takamura is still lifting a couple thousand pounds here easily, and he's doing so while traveling uphill. So as far as raw power is concerned, I would say Takamura has Yuri outmatched. However, I'm not going to underestimate Yuri's warrior spirit. The guy is a clear world champion, and I think he would easily be able to go a couple rounds with Takamura. And it's also been proven that Yuri is more than capable of reading his opponent's movements and countering them. So I'm sure one of you in the comment section is probably going to say,
Shane, why couldn't Yuri just predict all of Takamura's movements and just beat him? Any Baki character would solo.
well, first of all, dear viewer, shut the fuck up. But second of all, yeah, sure, if we're gonna be for real, that is a fair question, but Takamura has established beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is also more than capable of reading his opponent's movements and countering them. So the evidence for this comes from the Battle of the Hawk, where Takamura is easily able to predict Hawk's movements and respond in turn with a beatdown. Whether it was Takamura's ability to actually read his opponent or just his pure instinct, but the fact remains that he was able to predict Hawk's movements and counter them appropriately, and I think the same thing would happen with Yuri. It even states that when it comes to boxing, Takamura is the ideal. So this is more credence in my book that I think that Takamura would be able to beat Yuri. Do I think it would be an easy fight? Probably not, but I think they would go a couple rounds, but at the end of the day, ultimately, Takamura is going to take this fight. Now, the next fight Takamura would have would be against the Yasha Ape. So Takamura, I hope you enjoyed your record of being undefeated, because no matter which way you slice it, I think you are walking into an ass beating at this point. I'm sure you guys remember earlier when I mentioned Takamura's feat of defeating the bear. This feat is obviously impressive for many different reasons. One of the reasons being is that Takamura fought this bear on a mountain. So essentially, because Takamura was fighting on a mountain, obviously there's going to be decreased oxygen levels in the air, and it's just going to make his heart rate and breathing that much harder. On top of this, when Takamura encountered the bear, he had already completed his workout, so Takamura had essentially finished his workout and still beat the shit out of a bear. And the reason why I bring up this feat again is because the Yasha Ape defeats a bear in an even more impressive way. So Yasha is able to flick his wrist and one-shot this bear. So there is a clear distinction here in beating a bear in a fight and then launching a bear into orbit. So I would say that the Yasha Ape's sheer physical prowess far surpasses that of Takamura, but at least both of these characters have beaten and eaten bears, so they have that in common. But to better emphasize my point of why I think Takamura would lose, I'm going to focus my attention on the character Ando. So Ando is undoubtedly a strong character within the Baki Universe. He trained with Yujiro Hanma for an unspecified amount of time, and he states that he's even capable of killing bears with his fists. But the reason I bring up Ando is mainly because you could argue that he's scalable to Takamura. These are both human characters who killed a bear with their fists. But when Ando attempted to fight Yasha, well, Yasha clapped his cheeks with no difficulty at all. You could definitely argue that Takamura might fare a little bit better than Ando, I mean, obviously depending on how strong you think Ando is. But overall, I think Ando and Takamura's strengths are definitely comparable. I would say Takamura's durability probably isn't much better than Ando's either. If you remember with the bear fight, it's not like he walked away unscathed. He had a massive scar on his chest afterwards. I think that Takamura would be able to dodge some of Yasha's attacks, but overall, I feel like the win conditions for him are almost non-existent here. Takamura definitely has a technical advantage here, seeing that he is a world champion boxer and he knows how to use his body. Obviously, he's outsmarting the Yasha Ape, like IQ is not even a question here. The problem is that boxing is a close combat sport, and that's exactly what the Yasha Ape excels at. It's pure power and instinct. I think it would overpower Takamura like 9 times out of 10. Ultimately, in my opinion, I would say Takamura is definitely losing this fight. However, I think it would be fun to watch the Yasha Ape and him grapple around for a while before, Takamura's inevitable death. So technically, we could call the series right here. Takamura could easily die at the hands of the Yasha Ape. But for the sake of not ending the video on a somber, depressing note, let's say hypothetically that Takamura survives his encounter with the Yasha Ape. Well, given this scenario, I think Takamura would still be one of the best boxers in the Baki universe. So long as Retsu doesn't join boxing, I think we'll be good. But if it isn't apparent already, there are some characters in this verse that Takamura just stands zero chance against. Even if Takamura was fighting Hanayama back when he was 15 years old, I think Takamura is still losing this fight. You saw how it worked out for Yuri. Sure, Takamura might not stack up to characters like the Yasha Ape, Biscuit Oliva, or Yujiro Hanma, but if Yuri Tchaikovsky can become a 6th Division world champion boxer in the Baki universe, then you know damn well that Takamura can too. Hey guys, Shane here. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I know this isn't content that I would normally cover on my channel, but still, these are 2 anime that are very close to my heart, so I wanted to talk about them. Both of these anime are very meaningful to me, and they both inspired me throughout my own fitness journey, so for that, I'll be forever grateful. But of course, I hope you all liked the video. Please engage with it in any way you can, and of course, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How far do you think Takamura could make it in the Baki the Grappler universe? Personally, I don't think he's making it past Yasha, but that's just me. But with this said, guys, I wish you all well, take care, and I'll be back with a new Berserk video soon.